From the oil fields to the blockchain revolution, one man saw what others missed. Bitcoin Ben, an ex-truck driver turned Bitcoin pioneer, didn't just change his life. He's changing the game for everyone. This is the story of the Founders Group Worldwide, where private key capital meets American innovation. Watch your portfolio grow across real estate, resorts, mining, and energy. All Bitcoin aligned, all building wealth the new way. This isn't just investment. This is community. This is belonging. From exclusive club events to global networking, we're not just making money, we're making history. The old rich had their secrets. Now, it's your turn. Powered by private key capital, Founders Group Venture Capital opens the door for everyone in the world. The revolution isn't coming. It's here. And it's time to choose your side. Join the new rich revolution. Call 941-391-3882. Visit foundersgroupworldwide.com. Your future starts now.
Good morning, everybody. It's your favorite truck driver, ex-truck driver in the whole wide world, Bitcoin Ben. A little coffee. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Friday. A little Red Bull to wash the coffee down. And a cigarette so I don't go absolutely fucking crazy. On today's show, this is a very important show because I'm going to show you guys something that is going to happen a lot, and you are going to see it a lot. And this is really the very first example of this I have found. AI is, it's going to change our lives in so many different ways. And I don't think people realize what this creates. Let me ask you a question. I think I added it up earlier last year. I have actually done almost 25,000 videos. 25,000 videos. That's a lot of videos. And 99% of those were live. Just me rambling and yelling or arguing or whatever. That actually doing them live, you can't really do 25,000 live shows and hide who you are. It's really, really hard because you're just like sitting there, you're rambling, you're talking, you're yelling, you're arguing, you're you. It's really hard. That's why I do lives, so everyone really knows me. What if you could actually take every one I've ever done, every show I've ever actually done, and put it in AI, and then created a image of me, which would be a damn good looking image, by the way, and used all of the information from all of those shows, and then interviewed that AI. Well, I'm about to show you, and I want you to All right. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of a guy named John Maynard Keynes, or Keynesian economics. Well, I think it's Harvard or Yale or someone, and I think they say it in the show. They uploaded everything that they have of his, all of his interviews, all of his writings, the letters to his wife, on every document that they ever had, that he ever said, that he ever wrote, that everything he ever put out into the public, and even the letters he wrote his wife. They upload this all in AI. You're about to watch an interview of him. When I had a friend send me this, as I have listened to a lot of his writings, his lectures, his arguments at the UN, his argument for the League of Nations, what he said about Hitler, what he said about Lenin, what he said about Eisenhower. What I've read a lot, or listened to a lot of what he's written, so I know exactly how he thinks. This, and in the future, I'm already setting this up. I'm going to, in the future, have a show, probably call it Arguing with History. And I am going to interview George Washington. I'm going to interview Thomas Jefferson. I'm going to interview a ton of people that do not exist, but we have enough of their writings so the AI can look at what they wrote and align it with the AI. This is weird, guys. This is weird, because I want you to think deeply on this. Here's just an example. All right. The Supreme Court of America. All right. When they hear a case, they are trying to figure out what the writers of the Constitution would say about X. It's all legal interpretation. It's all, well, what did they mean when they said this? What did the founding fathers actually mean when they wrote this? What were the legislators' point of view when they wrote this law? Yes. Oh, don't think it. And this is going to say, I'm even going to interview Jesus Christ. Now, it's not really going to be Jesus Christ, of course, but I find it fascinating that it's just crazy. Now, this is the future. They'll use AI, and there's already talk of having AI representatives. We already have one over in the Middle East. All right. What? Remember, we already have a representative in the, I think it's the Middle East, that's an AI. What if, all right, what if we elect in the future, and I know this sounds crazy right now. I know it sounds crazy right now. What if we elect an AI George Washington? And I know, guys, right now it sounds fucking crazy. Oh, yeah. All right, thank you. An AI leader in Albania. Thank you. Now, I want you guys to watch this interview. And what I want you to watch for is the fluidity. And if you've ever listened to any of Keynes's lectures or his arguments or his interviews or his papers, this is what he believed. And what I like about this, all right, is every time he answers, they put right under him, like where the answer was sourced from. Like they ask him a question, and as he's answering the question, they almost like tag exactly where it was from, what page, what paragraph, what exact. Thank you. Exactly. They fucking footnote this whole thing. Now, the reason I want to show you guys this is a couple reasons. So you guys are prepared, all right? You guys are prepared for what's fucking coming. Forever. Once someone was dead, that was it. You freaking talk about limited supply. All right, limited supply. Life was the ultimate limited supply. Interaction with a human, with a certain human, was limited supply. That person would die, or you would die. Someone would fucking croak in that conversation. We're reaching a point where let's kind of lay this out. What if we uploaded everything Steve Jobs ever wrote, or every interview he did, everything he ever put out in public, and some private shit, and we created an AI of Steve Jobs, had everything he'd ever done that it could reflect on. Because every human has an algorithm. All right, I am the Bitcoin Ben algorithm. My life, the accumulation of knowledge and events in my life as I witness them, is an algorithm that brings me to my personality. Bingo, 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 bingo. We're all AIs in skin. Absolutely. We are, let's just call ourselves authentic intelligence, not artificial, authentic intelligence, at least as far as we know. Is that true? I don't know. But let's call ourselves authentic intelligence, and we are creating artificial intelligence. Well, what if we have Jobs, right? Steve Jobs, and every one of us is able to ask him a question. Because remember, you can have 100 million of those little sumbitches running on everyone's iPhone. AI is going to reach a point where if you want your AI to actually be George Washington and answer you in a way that George Washington might answer you, you'll have it. If you want your AI to look like Angelina Jolie with, I don't know why you'd want that, but let's say you did. And Angelina Jolie answers your questions or communicates with you with the available information from Angelina Jolie, right? She was like, I hate Billy Bob Thornton now. But this is the future we are going to. All right, let me play this for you, and I want you guys to witness. And the one thing I didn't like is they put him in black and white. All right, they put him in black and white representing, old age video. Almost like they were interviewing him from another time. Fuck that. That's fucking cheesy. If you're going to do it, put the motherfucker in a modern day outfit with like a laptop in front of him or something. All right. Here we go, guys. And watch for the fluidity. And if you've ever really researched or read up on him, these are his answers. This is exactly how he would answer these fucking questions. And this is what's really cool. He even talks about AI and the digital future and what it means economically. And he also brings up that AI actually makes information, knowledge, and a lot of our world unlimited. And he even says, in the future, what will be valuable will be limited supply digital. He doesn't say Bitcoin, but limited supply digital assets. Anyone know anything like that? All right. Hang on one second. AI doesn't need much to replicate speech patterns and probabilities. Oh, I've seen some Michael Saylor AIs that are dead fucking on. All right, hang on one second. Like I said, guys, watch this. This is the future. This is an interview with John Maynard Keynes. Let's go.
Thanks a lot for joining us today for another webinar organized by Princeton for everybody worldwide. Today, we are debuting a new format, a conversation with John Maynard Keynes, brought to life through an AI model grounded in his collected writings and audio. We will discuss his 1930 essay, The Economic Possibilities for Our Grandchildren, and ask Lord Keynes to help us think about these questions in our AI age. It's an honor to have you with us.
Thank you, Professor Brunnermeyer, and thanks to all of you assembled, both in Princeton and, as I am told, across the world. For someone born in 1883 to be reanimated as an artificial intelligence is, I confess, an unexpected form of life after death. Yet the questions that preoccupied me, how growth, uncertainty, money, and policy shape our civilization, are very much alive in your age of algorithms. In 1930, I speculated about the economic possibilities of our grandchildren. Today, I have the curious privilege of speculating with you, those very grandchildren, about possibilities beyond scarcity.
In your 1930s essay, you famously predicted that within 100 years, living standards would be 4 to 8 times higher, and the economic problem would be close to be solved.
Indeed.
Do you want to walk us through your main arguments in your essay?
When I wrote that little essay in 1930, I tried to look beyond the prevailing world depression and ask what compound progress in technique and capital would mean over a century. I suggested that if technical efficiency, what today you deem productivity, were to grow at a little more than 1% per year, and the stock of capital at about 2% per year, then by a century later, countries of the United could be 4 to 8 times rich. In that case, the economic problem would be largely answered, and the central question would shift from earning a living to using our freedom wisely and agreeably. I even ventured the heretical thought that a 15-hour week might suffice for most. 2 further themes ran through the essay. First, the danger of a prolonged transitional period of technological unemployment, when our ability to economize on labor outruns our ability to find new uses for it. Second, that our moral habits lag behind our material possibilities. We go on behaving as if survival demanded relentless accumulation, and so the love of money remains, as I put it, a somewhat morbid passion. On the first prediction, the record in advanced countries is, I think, broadly vindicated. Material output per head has indeed multiplied, yet we have not taken the dividend entirely in leisure. On hours of labor, I was plainly mistaken. The 15-hour week I envisaged has not arrived. The explanation may lie in the rise of what I called relative needs, so that many continue to strive not merely for enough, but for more than their neighbors.
So now how does artificial intelligence fit into this story?
It is a powerful means of economizing on labor, this time in mental rather than manual tasks. Left to itself, it can deepen technological unemployment and widen inequalities. But with deliberate policy, stabilizing demand, sharing ownership of the new capital, shortening hours instead of displacing workers, we could convert technical progress into the leisure and security I envisaged. The greatest difficulty will be human, not technical. The rapid readjustment of habits and instincts, bred for generations to prize steady work and accumulation, may now be asked to change within a few decades. If that adjustment is mishandled, the social fabric may fray. If it is managed wisely, AI can help buy the leisure in which the art of life takes precedence over mere subsistence.
If I'm not mistaken, you overlapped with Alan Turing at Cambridge as well. He laid much of the conceptual groundwork for thinking about intelligent machines. Did you ever encounter Turing in person and hear of his ideas? Did they influence your thinking in the 1930s essay?
You are quite right that our paths overlapped in Cambridge, and we did, in fact, meet. In a letter to my wife, Lydia, in 1935, I described having a young fellowship candidate to lunch, Alan Turing, remarking on his exceptional ability and agreeable manner. I was clearly impressed by him as a mind and as a person. However, this was several years after I wrote Economic Possibilities for Our Grandchildren in 1930. So his specific ideas about computation and machines that think did not shape that essay. Its argument rests on more traditional considerations: capital accumulation, technical progress, and the psychological limits of how much consumption people really desire. That said, I had long been preoccupied with the nature of reasoning under uncertainty and the formal representation of thought, albeit in a philosophical rather than a mechanical manner. Had Turing's mature work on computable processes been before me in 1930, I suspect I should have treated intelligent machinery as one more, perhaps very powerful channel by which technical progress could increase output while deepening the problem of organizing employment and leisure.
So let me come back to the concept of technological unemployment.
Absolutely.
Focusing on manufacturing and agriculture, in your essay you emphasize that the problem is the speed of technological change relative to the ability to reallocate labor. I often argue that we should move from a simple risk management approach to a resilience approach, being able to bounce forward from shocks rather than trying only to prevent them. I emphasize the idea of J-curve transitions between equilibria, where if the dip is too steep and crosses a tipping point, it could derail the entire system. If AI accelerates innovation itself, do you think we risk a permanent, unstable labor market where the adjustment process never catches up? Is it wise to think of our society as a complex system with two subsystems, where innovation moves fast while social norms and regulation does not?
Your language of resilience and J-curves is, if I may say so, very much in my spirit. In economic possibilities, I emphasized that technological unemployment is chiefly a problem of tempo. We discover ways to economize on labor faster than we discover new organized uses for it. If AI accelerates innovation itself, the risk is not so much a single permanent instability as a succession of overlapping transitions, each wave of displacement arriving before the last has been absorbed. But my later work insisted that persistent underemployment arises not from technology as such, but from a chronic shortfall of effective demand when the appetite to save outruns the inducement to invest. AI could as easily exacerbate that by concentrating gains and weakening labor incomes as it could relieve it if the new wealth were broadly shared and channeled into investment, shorter hours. There is no inevitability of chaos. There is a high probability of trouble if policy is timid. Your two-speed image, a fast subsystem of innovation and a slow one of norms and regulation, fits my view that our habits and instincts formed for an age of scarcity lag behind our material possibilities. Expectations, wage conventions, financial practices, all are sticky. In that sense, the economy is indeed a complex system with delicate feedbacks and dangerous thresholds.
So what would a resilient AI transition look like then?
I would put the emphasis less on grand designs and more on how risk and opportunity are shared. First, the citizen must not be left to bear the full blast of each idiosyncratic shock alone. Unemployment insurance, well-timed public works, and arrangements on taxation and the budget to first, keep a tolerable minimum beneath incomes and employment, and second, to support spending power when private demand falters. This, in my view, would be the civilized way of preventing temporary dislocation from becoming lasting ruin. Second, the task today is to see that the scale and direction of AI-related investment serve the wider community through regulation, taxation, and public co-investment that complement rather than supplant the animal spirits of innovators. Third, institutions should allow the fruits of productivity to present themselves as a choice for individuals. Some may prefer more leisure, others more goods and services. If those elements are in place, the J-curve of adjustment need not cross the tipping points you fear. The readjustment demanded of the habits and instincts of the ordinary man, bred for countless generations, to prize steady work and accumulation, yet suddenly asked to discard these habits within a few decades, can then be managed without tearing the social fabric so that a nervous breakdown can be avoided.
Let me pick up on your warning about the possible nervous breakdown. In your essay, you were optimistic about the long-run growth, but cautious of how societies will cope socially and psychologically, worrying that in the final state of abundance, people might lose their clear sense of purpose. Yet today, the rise of populism is happening well before we reach that final stage. We are still in a turbulent transition phase with many feeling left behind. Do you think your diagnosis helps explain today's populist reactions during the transition? Or are we dealing with
From the oil fields to the blockchain revolution, one man saw what others missed. Bitcoin Ben, an ex-truck driver turned Bitcoin pioneer, didn't just change his life. He's changing the game for everyone. This is the story of the Founders Group worldwide, where private key capital meets American innovation. Watch your portfolio grow across real estate, resorts, mining, and energy. All Bitcoin aligned, all building wealth the new way. This isn't just investment. This is community. This is belonging. From exclusive club events to global networking, we're not just making money, we're making history. The old rich had their secrets. Now, it's your turn. Powered by private key capital, Founders Group Venture Capital opens the door for everyone in the world. The revolution isn't coming. It's here. And it's time to choose your side. Join the new rich revolution. Call 941-391-3882. Visit foundersgroupworldwide.com. Your future starts now.
Let me pick up on your warning about the possible nervous breakdown. In your essay, you were optimistic about the long-run growth, but cautious of how societies will cope socially and psychologically, worrying that in the final state of abundance, people might lose their clear sense of purpose. Yet today, the rise of populism is happening well before we reach that final stage. We are still in a turbulent transition phase with many feeling left behind. Do you think your diagnosis helps explain today's populist reactions during the transition? Or are we dealing with different set of anxieties?
I would not treat them as wholly different maladies, but as related neuroses at different stages of the same drama. In economic possibilities, I imagined a future in which the struggle for subsistence had largely been won, yet our moral habits formed in centuries of scarcity remained obsessed with work and accumulation. I warned that mankind, suddenly deprived of its traditional economic purpose, might suffer a nervous breakdown, unsure what life is for when it is no longer for earning a living. Today's populism arises earlier in the story, before abundance, but it likewise reflects a collision between economic change and inherited expectations, a clash between fast and slow systems. The economic and technological subsystem moves rapidly. Trade patterns, automation, and now AI alter the map of opportunities with bewildering speed. However, the slower subsystem cannot reconfigure itself in step. Social norms, identities, political institutions, and local loyalties. I argued after the Versailles Treaty that prolonged economic privation corrodes not only bodies, but minds. When endurance is exhausted, counsels of despair and madness stir, and the bonds of custom are loosed. Your present populist movement seemed to spring from a mixture of such transitional hurts, regions and classes that feel discarded by technological and global change, a perception that the gains of growth are captured by remote elites, and anxieties about status, identity, and cultural belonging. These are not the languors of satiated abundance. They are the angers of insecure people who suspect that the promised future will not include them. What connects the two diagnoses is this: economic evolution always outpaces our moral and institutional adaptation. Whether in the imagined end state or in your present turbulence, societies become unstable when the stories that once made sense of effort, reward, and belonging no longer fit lived experience.
Let me ask about Jevons paradox.
Of course,
The idea that greater efficiency can actually increase total resource use because it lowers costs and expands demand. You once referred to Jevons' argument, applied to coal, as overstrained and exaggerated. If generative AI brings a new wave of efficiency gains, don't you think something like Jevons' paradox might apply here as well?
Jevons' argument had two parts. One was perfectly sound. Greater efficiency lowers effective costs and can, for a time, increase total use of a resource. The other was more doubtful. Jevons advanced this principle as an extension of Malthus's law of population, and he designated it the natural law of social growth, so that efficiency can never relieve scarcity. It was this air of inevitability I called overstrained and exaggerated. In economic possibilities, I did not deny that higher productivity could call forth new wants and new tasks. That is precisely why I spoke of a transitional period of technological unemployment and of societies that would go on overworking themselves long after the economic problem was, in principle, solved. Especially significant here is the distinction between absolute needs, which have a natural limit, and relative needs, which we feel only if their satisfaction lifts us above and makes us feel superior to our fellows. Needs of this second class, which satisfy the desire for superiority, may indeed be insatiable.
So are there really distributional aspects as well?
There is a further practical point, quite relevant to artificial intelligence, how the fruits of efficiency are distributed. If productivity rises and we squeeze the improvement chiefly into higher money wages, the purchasing power of the community expands and the new output finds a market. If, on the contrary, wages lag behind productivity, then costs may fall, but so may the mass incomes on which demand depends. The result can be not a happy Jevonsian bustle, but deficient demand and needless unemployment. In sum, whether we will see Jevons' prediction rests on four connected ideas. First, the marginal utility of additional consumption falls. Beyond the point, most people do not truly want an ever-expanding torrent of goods and services. Second, much of the apparent growth in demand is driven by relative needs and by the pursuit of status, which can keep us on the treadmill even when absolute needs are met, akin to what Faustine Veblen labeled conspicuous consumption. Third, it is contingent on the distribution of income. Fourth, the choice between taking progress as more output or as more leisure is a social and political one, not a mere byproduct of technique.
So in an AI-driven economy, where a handful of platforms might control key models and data, would your writing suggest we see a rebirth of new kind of rentier?
My use of the word rentier was quite specific. The individual who lives not by organizing production or taking entrepreneurial risk, but by virtue of owning scarce financial assets and charging a toll, interest, for their use. In the general theory, I argued that as capital accumulates and the community learns to manage investment, the scarcity of capital could be so far overcome that the pure rentier, in time, be gently euthanized by low real interest rates. What you describe in the AI economy is a little different. Here, capital, in the conventional sense, may indeed be abundant and cheap, yet a few platforms contrive new scarcities, exclusive control over data, network effects, and proprietary models. These confer not merely a normal profit, justified for organizing production, recovering past outlays, and sustaining fresh invention, but persistent quasi-rents founded on market power and legal privilege. That does smell rather like a new rentierism, though its assets are intangible, and its dramatis personae call themselves innovators, not coupon clippers. From the standpoint of my writings, two opposing forces are at work. On the one hand, the underlying tendency for the return on ordinary capital to fall as wealth grows, which points toward the waning of the traditional rentier. On the other, the deliberate creation of artificial scarcities, monopolies of knowledge and of access, which can restore rents, even in a physically abundant world. the outcome is not predetermined. It is institutional.
So are we witnessing a rebirth of rentiers?
Left to itself, an AI economy with a few dominant platforms would indeed recreate a new rentier stratum, this time sitting on data centers rather than country houses. But this outcome is not ordained, because digital capital is in principle highly reproducible. Vigorous competition policy, open standards, public and cooperative provision of core models, and a low-interest environment could as well extend the euthanasia of the rentier into the digital realm as permit his resurrection. It is, as so often, a matter of the rules we choose.
So you lived through the stock market bubble of 1929. In your general theory, you famously compared stock picking to a beauty contest. Well, the goal is not to choose the face which you find the prettiest one, but those others might find the most prettiest. We call this today higher order beliefs. Today, we again see very high valuations of AI firms. Does your analysis of bubbles carry lessons for today as well? Do investors ride the bubble?
Yes, I am afraid the beauty contest is still running. Only the faces now are AI platforms rather than debutantes. In the general theory, I argued that modern markets, governed by the fetish of liquidity, tempt investors to focus away from the long-term yield of enterprises. I liken professional investment to a newspaper beauty competition in which one wins not by choosing the faces oneself finds prettiest, but by guessing which faces average opinion will pick. Carried one step further, investors devote their intelligence to anticipating the third degree, what average opinion expects average opinion to be. Indeed, there are some who practice to the fourth, fifth, and higher degrees. That analysis does not date. If anything, your present enthusiasm for AI equities makes the structure more vivid. The prospective yields of the underlying technologies are radically uncertain. Tiny scraps of news, fashion, and narrative carry disproportionate weight. Under such conditions, prices are driven less by careful assessment of future cash flows than by stories about future stories about regulation, network dominance, or winner-take-most dynamics. That is precisely the climate in which speculative motives can swamp genuine enterprise.
Is it possible that speculation also has a good side to it?
I did not condemn all speculation. I allowed that speculators may be harmless bubbles on a steady stream of enterprise. I only took alarm when enterprise itself threatened to become the bubble on a whirlpool of speculation. There is, however, a further point that your age of new technologies makes very plain. When a new industry is only viable if many investors and users move together, each hesitates to be first. In such cases, a wave of exuberant optimism can, for a while, solve a coordination problem. Animal spirits may carry investment over a threshold that cold calculation alone would never cross. A mispricing of assets can, oddly enough, correct a failure of collective action. As I learnt in the interwar years, the trouble lies less in the boom than in the reversal. If speculation is largely financed out of owners' capital, the damage is mainly to their pride and purses. But when it rests heavily on credit and margin borrowing, falling prices impair balance sheets, provoke forced sales, strain banks, and spread unemployment, the bursting of the bubble is then not just a tidy readjustment of values, but a deflationary process that must be countered by deliberate monetary and fiscal expansion.
In your essay, you wrote that once the economic problem was solved, economists would become humble, competent specialists on a level with dentists. At the same time, we lived in a time of great theorizing economists, Olin, Hayek, Pigou, Schumpeter. You once wrote that the master economist must possess a rare combination of gifts. He must be a mathematician, historian, statesman, philosopher to some degree. How would you assess the trade-offs between precision and breadth of vision today?
When I demoted economists to the rank of dentists, I was not engaging in self-hatred, but in hope. The remark in Economic Possibilities assumed a world in which the great problem of subsistence had been solved. What remained would be technical tinkering, setting interest rates, adjusting taxes, best done by competent specialists who do not imagine themselves the high priests of destiny. But in my obituary of my teacher and mentor, Alfred Marshall, I describe the master economist as part mathematician, part historian, part statesman, and part philosopher, because in a world still wrestling with unemployment, inequality, and social change, economics cannot be a narrow technique, but a way of thinking about civilization.
And if you look at the current profession?
Looking at your present discipline from this peculiar posthumous vantage, I would say that the balance has tilted too far toward precision at the expense of vision. Models have become more exact, identification more rigorous, but often in service of questions that are, if I may be forgiven, rather small. The danger is not mathematics itself. I have never shared that Philistinism, but mathematical play cut loose from history, institutions, and ethics. Yet the opposite danger also looms: grand pronouncements about capitalism, climate, or artificial intelligence, with no disciplined understanding of how markets, money, and expectations actually work. In that direction lies mere rhetoric. The virtue of the best modern work, as in my own time, is to hold both tendencies together, to use technical apparatus as a lens, not as a blindfold. So my answer is this: as long as the economic problem is not in fact solved, you still need a few Marshallian generalists to frame the large questions, and many dental economists to carry out the careful work. Precision should be the servant of breadth, never its assassin.
From your perspective, why are economics and broader social sciences so important in steering societies through these transitions?
It is because our ideas have long half-lives. Practical men who believe themselves to be quite exempt from any intellectual influences are usually the slaves of some defunct economist. Madmen in authority who hear voices in the air distill their frenzy from some academic scribbler of a few years back. I am sure that the power of vested interests is vastly exaggerated compared with the gradual encroachment of ideas. Not indeed immediately, but after a certain interval. For in the field of economic and political philosophy, there are not many who are influenced by new theories after they are 25 or 30 years of age, so that the ideas which civil servants, politicians, and even agitators apply to current events are not likely to be the newest. But soon or late, it is ideas, not vested interests, which are dangerous for good or evil.
Thanks a lot, Maynard. This was fantastic. Thanks also to all of you for joining this very special episode. Hope to see you again in the future webinar and wish you all the best.
Thank you, Marcus. And thanks to all of you who have listened with such patience to a ghost from the 1930s. When I wrote about the economic possibilities of our grandchildren, I did not expect to be interrogated by their grandchildren's algorithms, yet the central question remains the same. What shall we do with our growing powers of production and invention? In my own work, I came to think of economics not as a branch of engineering, but as a moral science, a study of motives, expectations, hopes, and fears operating within particular institutions. I am glad that economics is flourishing, but it must recover its philosophical nerve, its concern with ends as well as means, and beware that computer science, the field to which Alan Turing so greatly contributed, does not entirely steal its thunder as the primary interpreter of our new machines. These conversations matter, and I very much hope they will continue long after this particular apparition has been switched off. So if you have found this exchange useful, I encourage you to sign up for future episodes and stay engaged. For the moment, I can only say thank you and good afternoon.
Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Okay, there we go. Now, it's Friday. I'm gonna wrap this up pretty quick, but I just want to show you guys something else. All right. Let me show you what else AI can do. All right. There is a YouTube channel called The Asian Guy. All right. And let me share this. All right. Let me share this real quick. All right. So this is The Asian Guy channel. All right. This channel has only been around a month. 1 month. His latest AI, because remember, guys, he isn't real. He's an AI. All right. His latest episode.
This is $1.25. In the 1960s, that was minimum wage for an hour of work. It sounds almost cartoonish now, $1.25. Until you notice
his latest video, which was actually put out about 4 or 5 hours ago, has 32,000 views. 32,000 views. And his channel has only actually been around for a month. Why? How is it that his channel, who's only actually been around for a month, how is it that his latest one, not even 24 hours old, only like 4 or 5 hours old, has 32,000 views? Because this channel is one of the first completely AI channel. It's produced, it's written, it is set up using all of the little tricks of the trades of YouTube. It reads the current YouTube algorithm and then adjusts the video in real time and uploads it. And from what I've read, to produce a 48-minute AI-generated video perfect for the YouTube algorithms takes about 4.5 minutes to produce it, post it, and send it out on YouTube. 4.5 minutes. A 48-minute video requires 4.5 minutes, and only about 3.5 of those 4.5 are actually producing the content. What does this mean? What it means is the level of production, all right? That 48-minute video for a human to produce the video, research the topic, set it all up, do all of the graphics, all of the editing, you're looking at least an 8 to 12-hour day, at least. AI can generate a video in 4.5 minutes that would have actually taken a human about 12 hours. This is where we're going. And I bring this up on YouTube. Guys, over in China, I watched a documentary on China where they, for a human to produce a robot, all right, one human to walk through and put one of their new robots together was about 9 hours. Now, you have another robot produce that same robot, and it takes them about an hour and 45 minutes. So that robot can produce 4 in one day, in one 8-hour shift. But remember, the robot, he doesn't work on shifts. I say he. Oh, God, I'm assuming his gender. The robot can produce 12 in 24 hours. It would require 3 humans, 8-hour shifts, to make 3. And this is just rolling out. Whenever we say the age of abundance is coming, guys, look up high-rise greenhouses. One high-rise in New York of a greenhouse could produce enough food to feed New York. One high-rise. And it uses like an 1/8 of the energy and an 1/8 of the water. We're reaching a point. Right now, the rate of production is going to skyrocket. Absolutely fucking skyrocket. And that's why they're going to print so much money. That's why they are capable of printing so much money. Because we're reaching a point this year, 2026, we're reaching the point where productivity will actually be at least 2 or 3 times what it was last year in consumable products and services. Prices aren't going to go up, but prices are also not going to drop initially. And let me explain why. This year, 2026, we have $7 trillion we have to roll over. In reality, that means America has to print about $21 trillion to refinance that and other shit. That the other money is to keep the derivatives from collapsing. They have to print so much money. It's ridiculous. During COVID, they printed like $2.8 trillion during COVID. They're about to print $21 trillion this year. What they're hoping, and you've heard them say this, productivity will outpace inflation, which means the prices won't go up. Shit's about to get crazy. All right, guys, I have to run next. I think it's next weekend or the weekend after. I am actually doing an owners call with our mining company owners. If you're interested in joining and owning shares of our mining company we are launching, you can actually sign up for that call. If you're interested, give us a call. Hang on one second. Where is this at? Oh, there it is. If you're interested in joining the owners call in a few weeks, It's 941-391-3882. That way, if you're interested in owning shares, you get all the information. Voila, voila, voila. You're in there. All right. Everyone, have a great day. Have a great weekend. And those of you tomorrow who are our owner operators or the resort or the credit union, see you guys tomorrow on our owners' calls for those products. All right? Everyone, have a great day. I love you guys, and give us a call. 941-391-3882 and join the new digital limited supply economy. It's the only thing that's going to have value. Love you guys. See you guys on Monday. Bye-bye.
From the oil fields to the blockchain revolution, one man saw what others missed. Bitcoin Ben, an ex-truck driver turned Bitcoin pioneer, didn't just change his life. He's changing the game for everyone. This is the story of the Founders Group worldwide, where private key capital meets American innovation. Watch your portfolio grow across real estate, resorts, mining, and energy. All Bitcoin aligned, all building wealth the new way. This isn't just investment. This is community. This is belonging. From exclusive club events to global networking, we're not just making money, we're making history. The old rich had their secrets. Now, it's your turn. Powered by private key capital, Founders Group Venture Capital opens the door for everyone in the world. The revolution isn't coming. It's here. And it's time to choose your side. Join the new rich revolution. Call 941-391-3882. Visit foundersgroupworldwide.com. Your future starts now.